Welcome back, happy hookers, and welcome to day 3 of 12 days of coasters. Today we're going to be working on an awesome mini rug coaster. How cute is this? I've called it the braided lemon peel. No surprises, because it uses this lovely braided technique combined with these awesome panels of lemon peel stitch. Now I would say this is an advanced beginner because we do use a couple of special stitches, crocheting in the third loop of a half double crochet and the lemon peel stitch. However, I'll go nice and slow so anybody can give it a try. There's also links to any supporting videos which I think will help anyone making this fantastic coaster. So I've used for this one of my new favourites, Scheepjes SoftFun. If you're not familiar with it, it pulls from the middle of the ball. Fantastic for making sure it doesn't roll around the floor. And I've paired this with a 4.5mm hook. Now this is a double knit weight, so often people may use a 4mm. I like to use a 4.5. It just prevents me from crocheting too tight, keeps my tension on track, and also it just works up a little bit faster. And with something like this, it doesn't matter that it's a little bit more of a softer fabric. It doesn't particularly need to be you know, dense and having that smaller hook. So let's get started. Okay, to get started, we're going to be working with a row of 18 stitches. So that's your baseline to help keep you on track. And to start, you're going to want to chain 19, so one extra. So create your slip knot in any way you like. And this is an advanced beginner, so if you're not familiar with the basic stitches of single crochet, half double crochet, we are going to be also using the lemon peel stitch, but I will go through that in detail. I would just brush up on a few skills. If this is your first time crocheting, you may find some of this a little bit challenging, but not completely impossible. Okay, so we need to chain 19. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, that was my cat, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16. I did that one a little bit loose, but I'm okay. 17, 18, 19. Try not to crochet your chain too tight, because what you don't want is your coaster to be pulling at one end because you've crocheted a chain that's significantly tighter than your normal stitch, and therefore your end is a little bit tighter. So I'm just going to check. Hello, he's saying hi. Hi to everybody from Little Moomin. I do actually have 2 cats, but the other one sleeps all day and isn't really interested in eating yarn. Okay, 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, 14, 16, 18, 19. Brilliant. So 4-row repeating pattern, half double crochet, ignoring this first stitch. I like to only do 1 turning chain in a half double crochet because I don't count the turning chain as a stitch, and I think if you only use 1, then it doesn't create so much bulk in the side. So we're going to yarn over, insert our hook in the second chain, yarn over, pull back through, 3 on a hook, yarn over, pull through all 3. Okay, so yarn over, insert, and you're inserting into the middle of those V's, yarn over, pull back through, 2 half double crochets. So yarn over, insert, yarn over, pull back through for 3, yarn over, complete your half double crochet. Half double crochet is actually my favourite stitch, if anybody didn't know. Okay, so half double crochet all the way to the end until you've got 18. It's nice to be crocheting in rows. The first 2 in the 12 days of coasters are well, the last one we had was the circular fringe, and then the first one was the heart. The heart was a bit of a beast, so I hope it certainly hasn't put anybody off completing all of them. So let me just move over a little bit more. There we go. Curling up, don't worry about that. It will curl until we get the rest of those stitches into it. Okay. I feel like I should probably put some nice soft music, Christmas music in the background maybe. Brilliant. Oh, split stitch. So all being well, and I say that for all of us, all the crocheters out there, we should have 18 half double crochets. Let's do a count up on this very first critical row. 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, 14, 16, 18, and obviously I've got this little bit down the side, we don't worry about that. So the next stitch we're going to do is a single crochet with a twist. So we're going to chain 1, turn our work, and ignore our chain 1. However, instead of single crocheting into the top of the half double crochet, if you're familiar with the third loop, or what's often known as the camel stitch, we're going to crochet into this one here. So can you see on the stitch anatomy, if we open it up, we have the top here, and then all the way along we have slanting down this third stitch. It's almost kind of like this and this mimic the top of a stitch when the top of the stitch is actually here. And if we crochet into this loop here, we actually push the top of the stitches to the front of our work, and that creates this really pretty braided effect. So into that third loop, single crochet, into that third loop, single crochet. Now there are actually two parts. Can you see sitting underneath this is another loop here? It's a lot smaller, it's a lot tighter. You shouldn't be able to get your hook into it. If you're struggling to get your hook into your stitch, you're one, possibly going into the wrong stitch, or you may have crocheted these a little bit too tight. However, you should, with a good tension, be very easy, find it very easy to get into those third loops. Okay. I was going to have a sip of my tea, crocheting tea, all this talking. I'm actually on coffee. Don't tell anybody. I do drink coffee as well as tea. Okay. Excuse me. Why do I always get the sniffles on camera? I think it's just because of the weather. Don't worry. Okay, so we're single crocheting the third loop till we get to the very end. Oh, I love this SoftFun because I can pull from the centre of the ball. I can very seamlessly pull it while we're filming, and I don't have a ball rolling about on camera. This last one, you may think, oh, where is it? The stitch always slips down to the side. That's the top of the stitch. So just make sure, can you see, turn it around. The front of the stitch is here. Can we see the front of the, look for the front of the stitch. So that this one is our back loop. Don't think that it's part of it, because can you see, there's the stitch. and you're going to chain 1 and you're going to turn. Fabulous. So there we have our first braiding. The next 2 rows are the lemon peel, and if anybody has ever done the lemon peel, you will know for such a simple stitch it creates a beautiful texture. And what's really interesting is this repeating pattern is actually a pattern that I created for an infinity scarf, and it was such a beautiful 4-row repeat that has these braids that I thought this is perfect for the first of these mini rug coasters. So the way that we do the lemon peel is we place a single crochet into the first stitch, crocheting as normal. Oh, Moomin is very meowy. And then a double crochet into the next stitch, and we place a single crochet into the next stitch, a double, so that's for those unfamiliar, yarning over, inserting, yarning over, pulling back through, similar to the half double, except we do this end bit in 2 stages. We yarn over through 2 and then we yarn over through 2, and we're going to alternate a single crochet and a double crochet, US terms, all the way to the end. And because we have an even number of stitches, 18, we will end on a double crochet, single, double, single, double, single, double, single, double, 2 more to go, single, and then a double in the end. Wonderful. Okay, so that's the first row of the lemon peel. The lemon peel always is done as 2 rows. So we yarn over, we turn, and we do exactly the same. We place a single in the first one and double in the second one. And because we have an even number of stitches and we ended on a double, what we're actually doing is we're placing a single into a double from the previous row. So we're placing the opposite stitch into that second row. So this was a single in the row below. I'm going to place a double crochet into that. So single crochet, double crochet, single crochet, double crochet, single, double. If you ever get confused as to which stitch is coming up, just take a look. This next stitch has got 2 bars, 2 horizontal bars underneath the stitch. Can you see? Because that's where we had those 3 that we were closing. This next one here has got 1 tiny one. That's because that was a single. I think it really helps to get yourself familiar with what the stitch looks like, kind of what the post, as we would call it. So single, double, single, double, single, double, single. A couple more to go. So double. The penultimate stitch is a single with the last one being a double crochet into the last stitch, chain 1, turn. Okay, we're going to create another braid now. So that's our 4 repeat pattern. Half double crochet, single crochet into that back loop, and then 2 rows of lemon peel, which is a single and a double alternating along. Exactly the same on the way back, a single and a double, always starting on a single, always ending on a double. This row is a nice easy one. You're going to place a half double crochet. There we go, bring it a bit closer into every stitch. And oh, how nice is the half double crochet, honestly. Because it feels the same almost as a single crochet. It's got that easy close, but it's got that real nice chunkiness without being tall and wispy like the double crochet can be, and a little bit gappy almost. This certainly creates a nice density to your fabric. Okay, so you're going to half double crochet all the way along to the end. Now this would be a good point, I mean any time would be a good point, just to double check that you have got 18 stitches. I'm pretty sure I haven't dropped any. However, when you're doing a row all of the same, that's not a pattern that you know you need to end on a specific one, you can be prone to not putting enough stitches in, missing the end one, or accidentally skipping the first one. So 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, 14, 16, 18. Lovely. So we definitely have 18. Good marker there. Chain, turn, missing the chain. We're going to single crochet like we did before, not into here, but into this third loop, into this back loop. Oh, I don't know what I did there. Take it out, start again. Best technique ever if you're not sure. The beauty of crochet over knitting, remember single crocheting into that back loop. Yeah, the beauty of crochet over knitting is you haven't got all of these loops, the fear of the needle falling out and picking up hundreds of loops, dropping one of them. You know, with crochet, you can't really go that wrong in terms of it unraveling, because you've only ever got one loop and one hook. You're always going to be able to pick up that loop somewhere along the way if you had to pull a couple of stitches down. And like I said, that's why it's important to start to recognise how stitches look and what they look like. Because the test of your advancement in crochet is always, can you work out where you are in a pattern? If you went to make a drink and came back and you forgot, could you work out if you ended up with not enough stitches or too many stitches? Could you count back and work out, where you added an extra one in or where you missed one? So this is actually the back of the work. You will always be creating the single crochets on the wrong side, because there we go, the single crochet creates that front braided effect. So if we think about the rows actually in terms of a repetition, get my pencil, ignoring the first two actually, ignoring the half double and ignoring the single, and think about them only now from the 2 rows of lemon peel, the half double and the single. Yep, because what you're going to do now is you're going to create that 3 more times. Yeah, so what you're going to end up with is 5 braids, because you're going to have a braid at the end, and in between those 5 braids you're going to have 4 panels, which it won't quite be a square. It'll be a little bit taller than it is wider, but that's the beauty of how it makes it into a rug. And then we'll be applying our tassels or a fringe, however you like to think about it. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to pop up on screen those 4 rows, the 2 lemon peel, the half double crochet and the single. I'm going to pop them up on screen. So I would pause it, take a screenshot, You can refer back. I will also put a timestamp up at the point we started this. In fact, I should be able to pop it into chapters quite nicely as well. So you can follow along with me, this one and this one and this one and this one, these 4 rows until we finish our last row of single crochet, fasten off and get to the fun part of adding the tasseling. Fantastic! So by now you should have your 4 panels with your 5 rows of that beautiful braided effect. Now you will find that because we haven't included our turning chains and we have got a mixture of different stitches, we've got rows ending on singles, half doubles and doubles, what you'll find is you don't have an exactly, exact straight edge. It will have some texture and a little bit of up and down. However, I genuinely think that just adds to this beautiful sort of mini rug effect. And I've already here started to add in the little parts of the fringe. So, crochet warning. If you are somebody that gets very nervous and a little bit twitchy about yarn wastage, then fringing is potentially something that either isn't for you, or you're going to have to just really be okay with the fact that you're going to be throwing away quite a bit of yarn. Well, I say quite a bit of yarn, probably in the grand scheme of things less than a couple of meters. But you do need to cut your tassels a lot longer than you're going to need them. Otherwise your fingers are just not going to get them into the right places. So I am going to cut these tassels at the end probably to about, I would like my tassels to be roughly the same length as one of my panels from outside to outside. So if I measure from the outside of this braid to the outside of this braid, it's just, you could say it's 3 centimeters, but maybe 3.5, because I want to include obviously the knot that it creates. So say I take 3.5 from here, I'm going to be cutting it probably about here. And can you see, luckily, I mean, I haven't got any too short. I think the shortest one's about here, but can you see the longest one's here? When it comes to fringing, it's very hard to get them all the same length by the time you've put them together and tied them in and pulled them tight. So that is one of the reasons why, well, that is the only reason why you need to definitely use a lot more yarn. So let's do a quick calculation for this. Like I said, I'm wanting to end up with something about 3.5 centimeters. I've got this small notebook. This small notebook is 15 centimeters. So I take my 3.5 and my 3.5, and that gives me 7. I'm essentially now 4 times the amount that I want my actual tassel to be. You could probably say that 3 times, so 9 would be 9 to 10 would be the minimum, but again I would say that you might find that challenging to pull it through. So this book is going to prevent me from having to do any measuring. So I'm going to lift you up like this, and we're going to take our yarn. And I mean, I've used my phone before, I've used a CD case if people even still have them, and you're going to, we need a little bit more, don't we? There we go. You're going to wrap your yarn around this, and all it's going to do is give you roughly equal measurements of yarn. And I mean, I would do a few bits. I've probably got 20 or 30 lengths here to keep me going. There we go, we'll go to there. So there's 2 methods. You can snip it off as it is, which is why a notebook's quite handy, because you've got that recess to get your scissors underneath. or you can simply slip it off, being very conscious. Pull it tight like this, being very conscious. I didn't finish that sentence. Being very conscious not to let it lose shape. And I get it like that. Snip, snip, snip. Keep a nice tight hold of it. I've grabbed that the other side. I've pinched it together. I'm pretty happy that that hasn't slipped out of place. These scissors are getting a little bit blunt. Probably being stolen and used for eyebrows and fingernails and things that lovely crochet scissors shouldn't be. So there's quite a fair bit there. And each one of these tassels uses 3 pieces. So what I tend to like to do is pop them into groups of 3 so that I've got them all ready to go. So, you know, you've got a little bit of a factory line going. You've got your tassels, you've got your cuts, you've got your groups of 3. So we've got 4 there, 4 groups of 3. I'm going to bring our crochet coaster back. So it was originally crocheted on a 4.5. I'm going to take a 6. I want to make sure that I'm definitely able to hook through 3 lengths of yarn at the same time. And what you're going to do is you're only going to work into every other stitch. Okay? Now, because you're working in every other stitch, so the first one and not the second one, what that means is you can't have a tassel in the very ends because we've got an even number. And if you think about the maths, you know, tassel, no tassel, tassel, no tassel, complete to the end will result in tassel, no tassel. However, that really doesn't matter because of the way that the tassels almost, can you see, I've missed stitches in between here, but you'd barely even notice because of the way that that works. So when we get to the other end, you'll see. So you're going to locate your first stitch, which for me here is here, and you're going to put your crochet hook through it. You're going to take your 3, making sure that they haven't massively slipped in position, but like I say, look, we've got one a lot longer than there, and you're going to fold it roughly in half so that you've got the loop of the 3, which you then want to be picking up with your hook, hence why I used the 6, and pulling back through like so. Now you want to be making sure you're doing this with the front of the work facing towards you, because I like the way that it creates the little bubbles on the end, whereas the other way creates these little bits going across. Now I actually prefer this method because I've already got a braided line. Personal preference. If you would like your tassels to look more like this, then you need to make sure that you're doing it on the reverse. So you're pulling through all of yours like so. Okay. So once you've got this, you need to basically get these 6 strands through here. You might find that the 6 you can pull it through, provided you've given yourself a pretty decent loop. You might find that you can make it big enough to put your fingers through and grab it. And that's why, you know, I've cut nearly 15 centimetres length of yarn, simply because I want to be able to get my thumb and my forefinger through to then pull. And this is important that you put your finger here and you don't pull and yank your stitches out of place. To put your finger here and then sort of scooch it down like so. So again, skipping the next stitch because it's partially obscured anyway by the width of that quite chunky piece. Inserting your hook, grabbing your next 3. Ooh, I've picked one up on my watch somehow. Folding in half, pulling through, grabbing hold of that. And there we go. Now at first when you start to fringe, you think, oh my goodness, this feels so long. This is going to take me forever. Enjoy it. Sit back. Put something on. Listen to the radio. Listen to a podcast. Listen to me rambling on YouTube about, you know, my cats and the daily struggles of a crochet YouTuber interrupted by her family and animals. Listen to something, because before you know it, you'll be like, oh wow, I'm at the end of the row. How amazing does that look? And then you'll be on to the other side, and then we'll be ready to snip it. And then there's a couple of options, personal preference again, whether you'd like to brush it out so that it's very, very fine. What's happened here is I've kind of got myself in a pickle, because it's a bit like when you get your shopping handles, shopping bag handles a bit confused and you're not sure if you've actually grabbed the handle. There we go, can you see? I had one that spun round on itself. So I'm quite enjoying just being able to use my fingers to pull those through and pull that tight. Okay, need to get myself a few more together. I'll finish this row with you, and then I'll show you how you can tidy it up at the very end. I'm just going to check that I am going, yes, I am skipping one. There you go, under, pulling through. Let's have a go doing it with the hook. Give ourselves plenty of room. See, I found it a little bit tricky because there is a lot. It's okay. I think you're going to be likely to leave one behind. One poor little strand's not going to make it through with the rest. Certainly with the fingers. Okay. So can you see we've got the next stitch and then we've got the last two. And like I said, we're not going to be going into the last one. We are going to be going into this one. So you've got a couple of options here. You could put 4 strands in, want to make it a bit chunkier, or just be okay with the fact that by the time you have got it all through and all knotted and all zhuzhed, oh what a great word, zhuzhed. See, look, I've not got this one through, this little one. It's like, hey guys, you left me behind. Just going to grab my hook. There we go. Get him back. Pull that through. And can you see quite nicely? It really doesn't have a huge amount of impact. Okay, so let's turn it. Let's take our fingers. So what you want to be looking for is the shortest one. And look, I've actually got one here. Can you see? This little baby here is my shortest. So if I were to cut mine to the length of this, width of this ruler, I would definitely find that I would have captured them all. Now there's 2 things that you can do. You can choose to hold it down with the ruler, hold it down with the book and snip along, or if you're brave enough you can just go for it, because I mean it's a fringe, it's never going to be laying perfectly flat, is it? Let's be honest, it's always going to be all a little bit over here, so it doesn't need to be, you know, like some kind of poker straight fringe. Now I'm actually going to use an incredibly large pair of dressmaking shears which I happen to have out as I was cutting some of the bits up, and I'm going to just give it a go, popping them. There we go. Oh, it feels like I'm some kind of medieval hairdresser here, and I'm going to just hope that if I get to the end they're all, look at that, all much of a much. And I mean, you can, like all hairdressers, take the little scissors at the end and, you know, just have a little extra trim, a little bit of a spruce up. And I think that looks really nice, as almost like reminds me of a little Barbie rug. In fact, this might be, you know, a mini rug coaster for your cup of tea or coffee. But if you do have children and they do have Barbies and dolls, you could tell them you've created a small rug for their Barbie house. Fantastic. So next option, if you don't want to leave it like this, you could decide that you want to do this, which is essentially just brushing the strands out. And I will link above now the video on how to fringe and how to brush that out, because it is really satisfying and it does make it really silky and give it a little bit extra. However, personal preference, I just feel because of the texture of the rug, the way that we've done the stitches, for me, leaving it like this certainly is a better look. So all you need to do now is to complete your fringing on this side. So I hope you've enjoyed day 3 of 12 days of coasters. Please do give it a thumbs up. It lets other people know that you like this video and that they might like it, and it really does help me. I'd love to see your creations. You can tag me over on Instagram at Crochet and Tea. As always, great to have you here. I respond to all my comments, all my DMs across all my channels, so I'd love to hear from you. Happy hooking. Bye.